everybody. I don't know. We just had a weird, I don't know if my Wi-Fi went out. It just stopped everything. So let me reset real quick.
Both sides of the conversation family. We welcome you to this virtual space crafted especially for you. My name is Jada Curry, and I'm both sides of the conversation's marketing director and graphics design specialist. I want to take some time to ground us all as a community into this space we are about to open up in, so let's go through our community standards. Both sides of the conversation is providing a safe and honest space for open conversation, so we ask that you all be respectful of that. We also ask that you be respectful of each panelist, host, and participant. We do encourage healthy debates and conversations. Don't personalize anything with anyone. This includes name-calling, bullying, trolling, or shaming. This will not be allowed or tolerated. Your perspective is yours. It is not a prescription. You do not have to agree, but show respect. These community standards apply to all of our live shows and any virtual spaces that we hold on social media, including YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. We want to make sure that we are caring for each other as a community. This is our priority in all of our endeavors as both sides of the conversation. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed today's show and continue to stay in touch with us via YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or all of them. All right, thank you for listening and see you soon.
Welcome everybody to both sides of the conversation. I'm John Henry, Executive Director. Today is Tuesday, so you know what that means. We'll continue to highlight our Black and Brown businesses, as well as those community leaders and folks are doing things to positively impact our community. I apologize when we started live here. I don't know what happened. But I do have Xfinity, and I know there's been outages all through the community. So we've been struggling with Wi-Fi signals and service. As you all know, we had another one of those atmospheric storms that came through the Bay Area, hitting us with rain, wind, trees are down, power is outage. Things are happening in the community right now. Lucky today and tomorrow will be the last of this rain, and we'll be clear for the weekend. Tonight we had a couple of guests that were supposed to be here as well that wasn't able to make it because of the storm and some of the things that's taking place. There's accidents all throughout the Bay Area right now. People are in traffic for hours. There is just a number of things happening. So we apologize for the early glitch. Not sure what took place with our Wi-Fi here, but it went down, but we pivoted. We're back, and I just want to thank everybody for tuning in to tonight's Hidden Gem segment. With that being said, I want to start off by saying thank you to the African American early childhood educator, Ms. Delia Fitzpatrick, and the OMI team over there. Just continue to step up and do the things they need to do to impact community. Just continue to reach out and support both sides of the conversation, the work we do. So I want to give a huge shout out to Delia Fitzpatrick and to the OMI team who are just doing amazing things in our community. I think the OMI leadership is really showing that model of what solidarity looks like and how do we support and uplift community, that reciprocity that we be talking about here at both sides of the conversation. Just want to give a huge shout out to them, and then want to give a huge shout out to the East Oakland Collective today as they continue to feed the families in our community, impacting our community through groceries and food distribution and a number of other things. To help impact our community, especially in these times that we are in. As time has moved back an hour, it's getting colder. So a lot of these support and needs are out there. I'm getting calls from different folks who need food security, need housing, our young folks need support. So it's very important that these type of organizations that continue to deliver service to our community, not only just on a normal base, but during this COVID, we are not out of it yet. It is still happening. So just nice to see these organizations continuing to do the work and continue to support our community right now in this crisis, this time of need. And to all of the organizations that's just continuing to muscle through to help support our community. Want to give a huge shout out to Collective Impact, YCD, and to our sponsors who continue to sponsor both sides of the conversation, the work that we're doing to continue to uplift and bring these resources to the community and making sure that we get the education and the conversations needed to move our communities forward. Also want to give a huge shout out to our both sides of the conversation team. Our executive team is working around the clock, doing all that they can to make sure that the community is impacted. Small but mighty group doing some phenomenal things, and we have some great news that's going to be coming up promising for the community. And I told you, we'll keep you along this process as we continue to go through the things that we need to really enhance the platform and enhance our awareness and what we're doing in the community. So some phenomenal things coming out, and we'll be getting that out to community. With that being said, it is Veterans Week. So first I want to give a salute to all of our veterans out there. Y'all know here at both sides of the conversation, we love our veterans and we salute them for their service and what they're doing. And I know Thursday's coming fast. But we want to make sure anytime that we live on the show headed into our Veteran Week, we always want to salute our service folks who do a phenomenal job and always going above and beyond. So just want to say salute to all of our veterans out there. Enjoy the week and enjoy your day. And we're going to continue to do our part here at both sides of the conversation to support you all as well. With that being said, tragic news, okay, for the Bay Area. I know everybody's heard about the shooting that took place this weekend on 880 where a young toddler was killed by a stray bullet. My heart is broken. Not only was that shooting impacted, there has been a number of shootings across the Bay Area and in San Francisco. Very disappointed in the news that I keep hearing and things that are happening in our community. This gun violence, the violence that's taking place in our community, it is sad, it is terrible. And anytime a young toddler can use their life due to some senseless violence, it is always a heartbroken moment for me. My emotions have been high all week. It's just been a struggle. And, I just think about my granddaughter who rides around with me all the time, 5 years old, and just understanding that these type of events continue to impact our community. It is terrible. We have to do something, and we have to march together in solidarity to stop gun violence and this violence in our community. It's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of healing. It's going to take all of our leaders and organizations to come together to find a plan to help our community, help these young folks, and help some of these folks who are in these situations that put other families in jeopardy. And I always will advocate here at both sides of the conversation. Mental health is the number one priority in our community. We have to invest as much money we can in mental health, just as much money as we invested in COVID and these communities. This pandemic has caused things and just normal trauma in our community has faced. We have to do something. It's going to take all of us a lot of work. So, and that family is calling out for the suspects to surrender. It is just heartbroken to be on the freeway and your young baby in the car sleeping and get hit with a stray bullet and crossfire. And it's just sad to have to announce that tonight. But our communities are mourning. Our prayers are out to the family here at both sides of the conversation. We're going to continue to pray and love in solidarity Just terrible, terrible news, and it's just sad to see it. Also, in San Francisco, over the weekend, there was a number of shootings, a number of violent events that took place, burglaries, home burglaries that took place. But over in the Haight-Ashbury, there was another shooting. Just the other day, somebody was killed and burglarized over there. Right there on Hayes and Asbury Streets. Gunfire rang out Saturday night, making it the second time in a few days. I think it was two or 3 days before. Neighbors witnessed the shooting. According to the San Francisco police, they responded to shots fired at 11:21 p.m. They were met by victims who allegedly said that I guess they was being burglarized and shots ran out and some of the suspects fled. But we also had someone killed up there on the Haight-Ashbury the other day, and a number of folks injured. We got a lot of work to do. It's terrible news. We cannot have our young folks. We can't have our elders of the community afraid to just go out and do their normal day-to-day things when these type of events are happening in our community. Very, very tragic news, and just sad to hear that this is continuing to happen. We got a lot of work. I know there's a lot of funding on violence prevention. We got to start getting in there and doing the work. It's just unacceptable. Also, speaking of the internet issues, there have been a number of cybersecurity issues that have taken place across the United States. The DOJ and the cybersecurity folks are looking into spam. Well, you all know the new war that is happening is cyber ransoms and things of that nature. Organizations are being hacked. And a number of breaches in people's information has been happening. So please, community, do your part. Check your credit. Check your information. As we know, they've been putting out the information. There's been a number of security breaches with large entities, with people information, banking entities over the last couple of weeks. And what we're finding out more and more, these information of these breaches are coming out way too late, 30, 60, 90 days, impacting the community. So please check your identity. And these cyber wars will continue. And again, we have folks come on this platform weeks ago talking about the importance of getting our young folks and community involved in IT security. That is the hottest job around right now, as America is trying to get folks in place to help fight the cyber war. That is the new war. We need folks because we're going to continue to have these outages and these different things that are impacting our people day to day. So definitely a great field to go into. I think the lady said it's 2.5 million jobs open. No one's being laid off. Great paying job. Community, go get into the IT sector. We need some IT security folks, as we are continue to get hit by cybersecurity issues and folks doing ransom. So just wanted to put that out there. With that being said, a few community announcements before we get started. The East Oakland Collective, again, are serving meals and groceries to folks Monday and Wednesday and Friday from 12 p.m. They are just doing catered meals on those days. And then every Tuesday and Thursday at 11 a.m., they're doing groceries and catered meals. They are doing about a 350 plus families, major impact, and they would like to do more. So if you would like to donate or support the East Oakland Collective movement, please go to their website, or you can go to our website. They are one of our community partners. Support them. The work that they do really impact our community, and they are helping out the Black and brown community. So we are happy to be in partnership with them and working with them to help make sure that we can impact more families in our community, as we know it is needed. The East Oakland Collective and Both Sides of the Conversation. This Saturday, we are presenting Both Sides of the Bay Unified Family Skate Day. This is going to be a phenomenal event. I am happy to say we will still have the event. We looked at the weather. The rain will be gone. Please come out to Liberation Park. We're going to have free food, cotton candy. We're going to have a mini golf set up for the folks out there. We're going to have a great time. Please RSVP. We want to make sure that all the folks RSVP get the meals and the different things. We have about 200 meals we're going to be serving to the community. So please register for this event. It'll be happening this Saturday, 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. And it'll be at Liberation Park at 7101 Foothill Boulevard in Oakland. Please register for the event. I am excited. Y'all will see me out there on my skates falling. Please don't laugh at me, y'all. You know, I'll be out there having fun with community, though. It'll be a great time. Families, please bring your young folks out. This is an opportunity for our young people to start engaging and getting to know other community folks and other young folks. We want to start bringing this village, this family model back to our communities and start having an opportunity for different families, different communities to come together and not be divided, and just figure out a way that we can have conversation and enjoy each other. And this is what this event is all about. We have a DJ, it's going to be music, it's going to be a good time. And we're looking forward to seeing you all out there this Saturday. So please bring your skates. And if you don't have skate, we'll have rental skates out there for the folks who don't have those. They will be available. Also, East Oakland Collective and both sides of the conversation will be doing Feed the Hood 19 for Thanksgiving. Pop-up care village is happening September. Saturday, November 20th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. We'll be at the East Oakland Collective office. We'll be doing a lot of food, gathering, getting it out, distribution to the community. There's going to be a medical pop-up. We're going to be giving PPE gear out. There's a number of things that we're going to be doing. We're going to have a special event for folks that's going to be there helping out. We'll have some stuff out there and we'll tell you as you come to the event. Please sign up. We'll be getting that information. Please check our YouTube. Please check our Facebook as the information will be blasted out up until the event, and we'll keep announcing it here on this platform as well. We are still looking for volunteers for both events. If you have time and you can make it to one of the events and you would like to volunteer, please let us know. We're going to have a cotton candy machine. We're going to have different things that we need people to do. And then for the Feed the Hood event, we are looking for drivers to come in to help go with some of the community ambassadors, to load up your car with food, go to some of the locations, some of the encampments across the city to make sure those get some of these great meals that we're going to be providing to them. We have some phenomenal sponsors that are going to be putting together some phenomenal meals. Some of the high-end restaurants are coming together to make sure those in need have a great meal for this holiday weekend. So please get out there. If you would like to donate, you can still donate, and we'll get that information up on the screen. But please go to East Oakland Collective's website and check out some of the stuff that they're going to be doing. Also, we're going to be doing an East Oakland and both sides of the conversation supply toy drive. You can drop off those items at 7800 MacArthur Boulevard, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. They're collecting financial donations as well. We're looking to help these folks in need. We're looking for blankets, coats, toys for the young people. So if you have it in your heart, you want to give back and help some families this season, please stop by and drop off those items to the East Oakland Collective office. We are asking for community to try to bring new things. We will accept used, clean items, but we would like to see folks bring new items just so that we don't have any issues. We want to make sure that people get clean blankets and things of that nature. So please reach out to the East Oakland Collective, and you can go to our website as well. We'll be getting that information up. Also, we are looking for volunteers and donations for the Heal the Hood with EOC on that same day, November the 19th from 11 to 2 p.m. They're going to be at Alameda Avenue. They're going to be doing it right there on the High Street by the Home Depot over there. They're going to be doing medical stuff. They're going to be doing nails. They're going to be doing barber, cutting hair, beauty stuff to help those in need, to make them feel good. So we're just happy to be a part of this. And the information will be up on the screen, how to connect. And we'll get that information out. Sabrina at Free Community Clinic is going to be leading that effort, and we'll get her information up on the screen. If you would like to donate or volunteer and be a part of it, please reach out to them. This Friday, we've been announcing it for a couple of weeks. It is here, the OMI Cultural Participation Project and the OMI Invest Black Sneaker Ball is happening this Friday. It will be located at 650 Capitol Avenue in San Francisco. The doors will open up at 5:30. The event will be from 6 to 8 p.m. Please contact Maurice Rivers. This is a vaccination required event. Please show proof of your vaccination. Mask and social distancing is required. There's an Evite Eventbrite that you can register for. Please reach out to Maurice Rivers if you can, and we'll get that information up on the screen for both sides of the conversation announcements. If you'd like to continue to support us, you could do it through our Amazon Smile. You could choose both sides of the conversation as a charitable donor. Anytime that you buy anything from Amazon, it won't be an extra cost to you, but some of the proceeds from that purchase will help go to both sides of the conversation. Also, we have a number of campaigns that are going out to help support this platform, to continue to grow the platform and continue to get the things that we need to increase visibility and support for the community. With that being said, every Thursday, we're still going to have our educational Thursdays. This Thursday, we will have an educational presentation on financial education. Will be on retirement. We'll have Cynthia and Sean come back to educate our community the importance of retirement and insurance. So this will be a great educational presentation. So we're looking forward to that this Thursday. And then our Sunday conversation, as you all know, as we back down some of the programming right now, we'll have 2 more Sunday conversations for the end of this year. And then we'll be reconvene as we're doing some of our sponsorships and some of our partnerships, looking at getting our Sunday conversations back every Sunday. But our next Sunday conversation will be November 21st. And it will be the relationship part 2 conversation. As you all know, part 1 was a hit, and this was a conversation that everybody wanted to talk about relationships. As we know, there is a big conversation around relationships. And then our last show, Sunday show for December, will be December 19th as we get ready for the holiday break and into the new year. And then we'll be coming back with our program, and we'll be letting you all know when we'll be coming back to have our normal Sunday conversations. But the December 19th conversation will be about doulas and midwives. So that should be a great, great conversation. Looking forward to that. With that being said, we're going to now close my mouth and go ahead and get to our hidden gems tonight. And they're going to come on and talk about some phenomenal stuff. I think great information. I'm sure the community will appreciate some of the gems and information they'll be given. We have Miss Raquel and Christian coming up. So we'll bring them up to the screen. From Home Ownership SF. They are doing some phenomenal work to help our community, and they're going to have some great information. So go ahead, Christian and Raquel, introduce yourself to the community and talk about some of the things that you all want to talk about tonight.
All right. Thank you, John. I'm Kristen from Home Ownership SF, and I'm joined by Raquel, my colleague at Home Ownership SF. And I'm just going to give a quick introduction about our organization, because I don't think we're that well known. We are kind of an atypical organization, a number of ways. And then I'm going to turn it over to Raquel, who's going to talk a little bit about the really important housing services that are available right now to San Francisco residents and beyond, such as the California COVID-19 rent relief program that is paying off rent on utility debt for households that owe or will be unable to pay due to the pandemic. I'm going to go ahead and just share my screen. Sorry, you guys, there we go. See if that comes up. There we go. So this is our website, homeownershipsf.org. We are an organization that is based in San Francisco. And just a little bit about us. Let's see. There we go. We are basically a coalition of housing counseling agencies in San Francisco. And I'm going to show you what those agencies are right down here. So we're a coalition of basically these agencies that you see on the screen here. These are all housing counseling agencies that provide services in San Francisco and some also in the East Bay, like Asian Inc. and Balance. And these organizations provide free educational workshops and counseling, individual personalized counseling to help San Francisco and Bay Area residents toward attaining financial empowerment, addressing immediate housing needs and long-term housing goals, and really working towards housing stability and housing sustainability for the long run. So the agencies that really we're here to represent are Asian Inc. That are located in the South of Market area, Balance located in downtown San Francisco, Mission Economic Development Agency or MEDA in the Mission, San Francisco Housing Development Corporation, also known as SFHDC. They're in the Bayview and Fillmore, and the SF LGBT Center that provides services in the Castro. We do work with a bunch of additional organizations like Homeless Prenatal Program and Self-Help for the Elderly and beyond. And due to the pandemic, most of these organizations are kind of resuming services in person. So there are different places we can talk about where you can drop in to get help. But they also are all providing services by phone and virtually online. So really quickly, basically our role at Homeownership SF, we're a tiny organization and we're really here to help connect you to the services. So we don't actually provide services directly, but we're kind of like an information and resource and referral hub. So when you have housing needs, if you're at risk of losing your housing, if you're in need of working towards housing goals or addressing financial needs, credit, debt, you name it, we can help to connect you to services that are in your area, and ideally the providers that can really meet you where you're at and have services that will meet your particular needs, whatever those might be. Additionally, we can also come out to the community to bring flyers, to bring information to table, and to talk to folks about those same things. What services can help based on your needs, and how can we help connect you to those services? So on that note, I want to actually hand it over to Raquel to talk about what the services actually are.
You
Raquel,
have
I
to
think you're
unmute
on mute.
yourself, Raquel.
Raquel, you're on mute.
Technical difficulties, right?
Got it. It's all
As
good.
always. But anyway, thank you so much, John, for having us. This is such a great resource for the community. This is definitely what we want to be able to do, to get in there with the community and be able to provide this information that we have. As Christy had mentioned, we are a small organization, and our goal is to bring resources, education, information to the community, being able to tie in these programs from the city and be able to match that to the needs of the community when it comes to housing needs. Specifically, right now, I think one of the hot ticket items that we are actually facing is, of course, how the pandemic has affected the community. So, although I'm going to go talk about the different services that we have, I want to focus in first maybe on one item that we definitely have been actively promoting and actively been basically providing information to the community and providing assistance to the community. So, with that, I definitely would like to share my screen. Um, okay, bear with me. How will I share? Do I share this one? Okay, so let me see. Share the screen. Okay, and sorry about this. How will I know which I'm sharing?
Try to hit one of the tabs at the top that says like Google Windows or one of those, and it should pull up what's on the
Perfect. Thank you so much. So let's start with this one right here. So we're gonna go with that. So I'm basically talking, as you notice, we did talk about, she did Christy had Kristen had mentioned about our website. Our website is a great resource to start for people who are needing assistance, whether they're homeowners, home buyers, or renters. As I mentioned before, we definitely would like to highlight the programs that are available right now. Right now, we'll be talking a little bit more about the COVID-19 rent assistance program. So with this particular one, as you've noticed, we do have a page that's dedicated just for the rental assistance program. As you know, to address people who have been falling behind on the rent and utilities, not just in San Francisco, but in the state of California, federal funding has been granted to be able to provide assistance for rent that's been behind since April 2020 onwards. And additionally, of course, there have been eviction protections that were in place as a result of the moratoriums that were provided. So, for information regarding these programs and also the protections, we have dedicated a full page with regards to where you could get that information. So, if you go to our website and go into the rental assistance page by clicking this banner right here, you will land here basically telling you what are the different protections that are available and eviction protection. In particular, we want to talk about the state program right now. So the state has what we call the California COVID-19 Rent Relief Program, which is dedicated to households basically who are needing assistance either for past rent or future rent due to their hardship, if they've experienced any COVID-19 related hardship, whether it be because they've lost their job, the decrease in hours, they've had additional medical bills or any type of expenses as a result of COVID-19. So this is the program that you would want to be able to provide basically these renters. This program is not just for renters. This is also open to landlords as well. So that's a program that we've been actively promoting and actively been providing information on. The way that we've been doing this, we've been actually going to the different neighborhoods, basically handing out leaflets, handing out flyers. We've been going and tabling at different organizations, and also as well providing any type of presentation, whether it's a virtual presentation or we actually go to the sites, as I said, to table and provide this information. We just want to get that information out there. We know that there's quite a few people that have already applied for these programs. However, a lot of the folks out there also are unaware they could continue to get assistance. One issue that has also come up is because of the fact that previously there were two programs in San Francisco. Used to be a state program and a city program. Now there's only one program since September. And so what we've been doing as an agency is being able to provide assistance for people who are transitioning from the city programs, and also be able to bridge those gaps that people are experiencing with regards to getting assistance from the state program. Just to give you an idea what the state program that I'm talking about, basically this is a flyer that we've been distributing to the different neighborhoods in San Francisco. Basically, as it states here, the
Hey,
program is.
Raquel.
Oh yeah,
Raquel,
sure.
I'm sorry, we can't see that. I think we can only see your the Homeownership SF website.
Oh really? Okay. Okay.
Sorry.
Oh, thank you so much for doing that then. Okay, let's so just this homeownership SF website. Okay. So
Yeah.
okay then. So let me do this instead. Oh wow, this is a little bit different, right? If we go housing is key. Can you
Yeah,
see
that
this?
works.
Yeah, we
Perfect. Sorry about that. So when you go through technical problems, so the Housing is Key basically is a website where people can come in to be able to apply for the programs. It provides basically the applications are generally online. So it provides basically there's a portal for the different languages that are available here. Or you could call in to their 800 number, which is 833-430-2122, and they could connect you to a counseling group that can assist you through these applications. So this is basically this program assists both in back rent and also back utility payments. Um, so far, that's the program there. Now, how are we able to assist? One of the ways that we're able to assist is actually by providing assistance through our different agencies. As Chrissy had mentioned, we are a coalition. We have five agencies that work under our coalition, but they're member coalitions. But we're also networked with additional assistance application. Additional resources or additional services that provide application assistance. So, sorry about this. This is basically the list of the different agencies that we have that do assist with applications. If you basically if you see a group here that says rental assistance in our page, they provide rental assistance. Some provide just online assistance or by phone. Others can actually provide in-person assistance, which will allow to help bridge that digital divide or mobility issues that some people might have. So there are different agencies in different neighborhoods in San Francisco. If you'd like to be connected to any of these agencies, you could definitely call us at our phone number, which is 415-202 5464, or you could email us at info@homeownershipsf.org, and we could link you to these agencies. Um, so far, that's what we have with regards to the rental assistance programs. Christy, is there something that you might want to add with regards to that I?
No, that was really helpful, Raquel. If you want, because we can't see the URL at the top of the screen, if you want to scroll up to the top and just show how to navigate to this page, maybe.
For sure. So
the page.
If you go from our main page, one of the quickest ways that you could get there is actually by clicking on renters. And then from renters, you'll go down, scroll to the bottom of the page, and we have different icons here for different pages that we have within the renters page. We can actually link you basically right here, rental application assistance. And that's how you will end up with this page right here.
And one other thing I was going to say, Raquel, is can you share a little bit about the eviction
for sure
protections?
For sure. So if we go a little bit more about the eviction protections, so as we know, as we know, the eviction moratorium has ended as of September 30th. Thus, of course, landlords and property management can now move towards eviction action. However, of course, there are still limited eviction protections that are available to people who are actually still behind on their payments. And so, to be able to protect tenants who are still falling behind on their payments. If you are a tenant and you have received an eviction notice or a notice to pay or quit, first order of action is to definitely go to the Eviction Defense Collaborative and connect with them. Their phone number here is 415-659-9184. Or email them at legal@evictiondefense.org. Another thing is that if you have received, if you're a tenant and you've received a 3-day notice to pay or quit, please do not disregard this notice. Make sure to provide basically a declaration of your financial distress to your landlord. Another thing is to make sure to apply for the program. By doing so, you are protected while you are in the process of application. So anybody who is applying is protected until one, the review is completed, or you've been denied, or two, you've been granted assistance through the program. So, yeah.
I think there might be, for some reason, I think we're still not seeing all the pages you're clicking on. Do you want me to share? And I can share.
For sure. That might be much better. I think so.
Is that okay, John? Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
John can see all the info.
Tonight we're having technical issues, everybody. Just bear with us, okay?
I am so sorry about this.
Raquel, you just have to stop sharing your screen so she can.
For sure. Let's do that.
Great. Okay. Oops, that's mortgage assistance. Let's go back to this one, rent assistance. So I think this is the page here that has the information about both the programs you can apply for, such as starting at housingiskey.com, as well as eviction prevention information and some of the places you can go to get help, such as the Eviction Defense Collaborative.
That's correct. So if anything, of course, as you notice, so if you know of a tenant who has received a notice, make sure to, one, not disregard that notice, to respond back right away. If it is a court summons, though, please respond within 5 days of receiving the summons. You want to make sure that you are actually actively responding to those in order to avoid further action.
And I would add too, if you're not sure what to say, that is where contacting the Eviction Defense Collaborative can really help. They can help you figure out exactly how to respond depending on the type of summons you might receive.
Correct.
And can you all put the Defense Coalition information in chat so we can put that on the screen for the community?
We could definitely do that.
And then, John, I don't know if it makes sense to maybe if you have questions or if anyone else maybe in the comments has questions about these programs or what to do during this time, if you owe background or owe utilities.
Definitely, if you all want to share the screen, we can have a conversation. I definitely want to open it up to the community. Definitely.
Christy, if you could go ahead and share that, then I think that would be the best way.
Sorry, so share which?
And the FEO, do we have a page on FEO background? Sorry.
Well, I was less a page. Most of it's actually here, just the kind of the information. But I was thinking we could maybe just take questions if people have questions about how to apply or how to get started or how to get help.
Definitely.
This is that website that Raquel was showing before. That again, you can apply directly here through housingiskey.com, but we also can provide assistance for folks who really need help submitting their application. Oops. I see that's not working on my end either, huh? Oh, there we go. Yeah.
Looks.
Is you able to stop sharing or are you still sharing?
Oh, sorry. There we go. Sorry.
Great presentation, a lot of information. Of course, I have questions. Any show like this, I have questions. We talked a little bit behind the scenes, but one of the things that I did see, because that is COVID-related assistance, right? So in you all's programming, is there any support for people that are just dealing with maybe layoff or things of that nature that are having those same issue, or is this COVID specific?
The California COVID-19 rent relief program is specifically to address hardship within as a result of the pandemic. However, of course, if your layoff has occurred within the pandemic, then of course that is cause for you to come in and actually apply. If at this very moment, because one of the things is that if you get laid off or lose a job when this cycle or within this time, it is hard for us to get some jobs coming in, right? So people will be left hanging. And so definitely if you've been laid off during this period, yes, apply for the program.
That's
and
great.
So I think
great. Go ahead.
Just to add, so basically anybody who's lost income during this time of COVID-19, for the most part, that indicates a COVID-19 related hardship. That's really what they're looking at in terms of that hardship. For folks whose, let's say your income hasn't gone down, maybe it's gone up and you're still having some issues paying rent, that's another issue. Contact us. We can help you connect to other types of services. But for the most part, this program right now is the primary one. And we can connect folks to other programs like Eviction Defense Collaborative's RADCO program. There are some kind of offshoot rental assistance programs that are available to help folks for things like back rent, also for move-in costs. So if you maybe are experiencing homelessness and you find a place to move in, you don't have your first month's rent, or you need help with the deposit, those are different things that also we can connect folks to that are available through a range of organizations like Homeless Prenatal Program, again, the Eviction Defense Collaborative, and more. So there are kind of some additional rental assistance programs in addition to this primary one. The difference is this primary one will really cover up to 100% of rent in some cases. So that's kind of the first place to start.
Wow, great information. I guess one of the other questions that I have then is for the application process. What is the typical turnaround for the application process if somebody's 3 months. I mean, how soon should they be applying, or what's the turnaround for them to get support? And then, I've heard a couple of different scenarios where I guess some people were able to get the support and the back pay went to the landlord, but the landlord still tried to evict them. Like, can you talk to a little bit of that? How does that work? Or does the tenant get the support? Like, how does that work so that the community has a better understanding of, like, when the actual support goes through? Because I heard some stories where the landlords got the back rent and they still evicted the tenant. So can you speak to a little of that, or that's outside of you all realm?
Well, I could speak a little bit into that because, of course, one of the things that we do as different agencies is we gather together and definitely hear about these stories from all our other partner organizations. One thing about the turnaround time, unfortunately, with the turnaround time, it really depends. It's a case to case basis, but most oftentimes the state would actually had mentioned that if an application is turned in and is turned in with complete all the documentation is complete and everything, it should be in the hands of a case manager within 2 weeks of application. However, of course, what would delay these processes sometimes would be one is that missing, they might need some more documentation. Another thing is that, of course, a lot of the information that's being provided needs to be verified. So with a tenant that's applying, they need to provide room for the landlord to verify that they are indeed renting through the landlord, and the landlord can basically provide just could verify the amounts that are being owed. So maybe that's where the a lot of the what you call this, the setbacks and the delays can happen, is because of course this verification of information can take long. Another thing is, of course, right now, they definitely would want to address the ones that are greatly at risk. So a lot of times, you know, different people will apply at different levels of risk, right? Some people are at a lower income, really almost to the level of eviction and things like that. And so these are the households that they want to address first, and then of course move their way up to the ones who are less at risk. So that would be the situation there. In certain situations, of course, sometimes a landlord will be applying on behalf of a tenant, and unfortunately, if the tenant is non-responsive, then that's where the problem will be for other people as well, because in that case, then that landlord can be denied. So the timelines can differ from each situation. And so I do understand the frustration there. And so one of the things to be able to bridge that frustration level and being able to get some sort of information is to check back always with the case manager or their call center to just get status reports on their situation. If that doesn't work, one of the ways that they can do this, a tenant can do this or a landlord can do this, is take it to the level basically of the program officers. And so that's one of the ways that we can also assist, is be able to communicate that to the program officers level as well, so that we could either find out what's going on or to expedite certain situations or certain applications. Now, of course, if the reason for files to be expedited is because a person is already on the verge of an eviction, there is an email address that I'll be putting on the chat in a few here, that will help expedite the processing of that file, whether it be a person who's actually back in rent and it's being evicted by the landlord, or even for those who are asking for utility assistance, wherein their power or their water bill or their water services are going to be cut off. There's also an email address to escalate that. To escalate those situations. And so unfortunately, I've heard about these things happening where landlords are getting the money and acting as if they never got the money, and they're moving towards eviction. And that's where Eviction Defense Coalition and legal resources might be a good way to be able to assist these tenants, because of course, if they are fully satisfied, then of course there's another issue going on there. There's a thing that's definitely when these are federal funds, of course, if federal funds are being used or misused, of course, there is action against that if ever that has been proven. If a landlord is saying like, hey, this person did not pay me or anything like that, even after receiving that. So, but that's that scenario, if you would say that.
Yeah,
But yes,
I was just going to ask that. I go, what's the accountability for landlords who are taking advantage with these families in crisis, and some of these families has kids. I think that definitely that accountability needs to happen. So thanks for putting that out there. And then we do have a question from someone in the community. They're asking, is there a fee for your services, or is it all free?
free, 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 free. Yes, our services are free. We definitely provide application assistance, resourcing, and referrals for free.
Now, are you all a nonprofit, or are you a city agency?
We are a nonprofit. We are funded through various entities, one of which is, of course, the Mayor's Office of Housing and Community Development. Um, we are providing services as it relates to affordable housing opportunities here in San Francisco and affordable housing programs in San Francisco. But we do have different sources of, and we are definitely a nonprofit.
All right, great information. Another question: how do your services differ from Catholic Charities, or is it the similar entities?
I think I'm happy to jump in for that one. We're really similar to Catholic Charities in that Catholic Charities is helping people connect to rental assistance, application assistance with rental assistance. But the difference is that we're really referring to a number of community-based organizations, where Catholic Charities right now, I believe they're doing application assistance in-house. So Catholic Charities really will provide a lot of the same assistance that we would connect you to through our organizations. We just have kind of a bigger network, I think, that we're working with, but that certainly includes, in a lot of ways, Catholic Charities. So as we talked about in the beginning, we're working with those 5 HUD housing counseling agencies in San Francisco, but we're also working with Bishop, Bill Soro Housing Program. We're working with Raquel, sorry, Open House, SOMCAN. We're working with a lot of different organizations throughout the city that are helping people with these applications, including SFADC, the San Francisco Anti-Displacement Coalition, which is its own cluster of tenants' rights organizations. So we're kind of just connecting people to, again, the service that can meet their needs. So if someone calls and says, I'm in this neighborhood, I don't have access to the internet and I need to meet with somebody in person, we can figure out, okay, who's closest to you that you can go meet with. Or if it's the opposite, maybe you're having some mobility issues and you really need help navigating that online application, we can connect you with an organization that can help you virtually online. If you have a specific language need, we can assist with that too, connecting you to a counselor that speaks those languages. And kind of broadly speaking, we're in addition to kind of covering a big geographical area, we're covering a lot of languages. So English, Spanish, Chinese, Tagalog, Vietnamese, Russian. We can kind of refer out to folks for different types of needs that they might have.
Wow, pretty cool information and very dynamic. I like that, just to cover all of the spectrums. One of the other things that I wanted to ask, because I know we're focused on the rent relief part of it, but there's a difference. So I just want community to know, because we are here in San Francisco, but you talked about the Greater Bay Area or California. So is there a difference between the San Francisco housing support versus the California support? Because I know there was a lot of confusion when the California moratorium stopped, but San Francisco still had it, or San Francisco stopped, but the state still had it. So can you guys talk a little bit about that? What difference between San Francisco as a city versus the state of California support? Is it the same? How do they differ, or do the intersections cross with each other?
For sure, I could definitely talk about that. So previously, there were two different programs. One was for the city, and one was from the state. The city basically, it's from the same federal funding pool, if you think about it. The only difference is that, of course, the specifics about the program, how it was rolled out, and how it's being processed is like, separate. However, of course, in the course of as the programs as the months progress, the city has decided to merge the city program into the state program. However, of course, as you mentioned, it did create some confusion for a lot of people. So technically, they're two separate programs, right? So if you've applied for the city program by itself, and let's just say you needed extra assistance moving forward, then that household needs to apply into the state program. And so that's the reason where there's a confusion there. And so there have been some people, though, unfortunately, in the transition have been basically left in the middle. Some people are being funded just solely from the city because they've been reviewed, and they've been reviewed and they're ready for disbursement, right? Some other people will be getting a combination of both. They'll be dispersed a little here, but then again, moving forward, they need to work with the state. And there are about 1,400 or so people that were not absorbed by the city program that will need to go through the state program. So, and I think that's where the confusion is. Is this what you were trying to find out?
No, definitely.
And
I think that was what it was. Go ahead, Chris.
And that definitely applies to the rent assistance programs. There was also kind of a difference in the law around the
Correct.
eviction moratorium. And those essentially, my understanding, and Raquel, correct me if I'm wrong, at this point, the eviction moratorium, both at the state and the city level, has ended. And one thing that is really important for people to know is if you owe back rent, and this should be true across the state, your landlord should not be able to evict you until they can demonstrate you have, or they have applied for this rent assistance, rent relief program, and have been denied. Is that right, Raquel?
That is very correct.
Yeah,
no, that is so
really
correct.
Important for people to know. So if you owe that back rent, and if you've applied for these funds and you haven't heard back, again, please be diligent and continue to call back to the 833 number. You can also check your application status online at housingiskey.com. But please know that also, tenants should have some protection in that the courts should be holding on any evictions until the landlord can demonstrate that they have applied or the tenant has applied for the California COVID-19 rent relief and then been denied. And again, that's something, if people have direct questions about that, we're really happy to take the time to explain it and go over that. So you can always contact us directly through our website or call us. And we can also help to connect then to whatever, additional services you might need.
Oh yeah, that was great information because that kind of looped me back around earlier where Raquel was talking about if a struggling renter is having that problem, they're filling out the information and the landlord is trying to evict them and they're not responding, right? Because I think earlier you said that the landlord actually has to respond to the notice. So what happens if there's a disconnected communication, the tenant's doing this part, but the landlord is intentionally not responding because they want the tenant out, so they're not responding to none of the notices? Like, how do you all support that? Is that just having to go to the Eviction Defense Collaborative?
Yeah, really the Eviction Defense Collaborative is the go-to place. They have the staff capacity, they have the expertise, and they're really there to help people prevent that eviction. They can help to file documents on people's behalf, to hold off any court processes. They can help people figure out how to respond to a notice. And so they can really help to intervene in that process in a legal way. And we can help, of course, to connect folks to the Eviction Defense Collaborative, but you can just contact them directly through their website, by email, or by phone.
Well, we have another question, but I did want to ask one other question because I don't want to forget and lose my mind. I am getting a little old, everybody, so I forget. But one of the questions that I didn't really hear you all talk about it, I think you may have mentioned it during the website presentation, you talked about some of the support for like utilities and different things of that nature. How does a tenant qualify for that? Do it has is it attached to the rent relief, or maybe they able to pay the rent but they're not able to pay the utilities? Is that a separate support, or is it tied in a package?
So, if a person applies for the program, basically the person will be asked whether or not they both need both rent and utility assistance. And so, technically speaking, they are. It's going to go through the same application. However, of course, there are going to be two separate fundings. The reason being is that the rent actually can not only pay for back rent, they could also pay for future rent. Whereas for utilities, you could only apply for back utilities. So, and so the process also works in such a way for the utilities. The program needs to actually reach out to the utility provider to be able to verify their back utility payments, and then of course pay directly to the utility provider. So, so normally what happens is that the primary concern whenever applying for the program will be the rent, and once that is settled, then they're going to review the tenant may be recertified for utility payments. So, but it's going to be all going through the same application.
Okay, cool, great, well articulated. And then lastly, the question that I seen, the question I had too was, so I know you all have the home ownership SF. Is that another part of the organization where you help people get into home ownership? Can you talk a little bit about that, or if you want to answer the question, that's fine. I'm not sure, but that was a question that I had.
Yeah. So I think, so quickly, just to address this question that's come up on the screen, are there statistics for cultural demographics and homeownership in San Francisco? And what's the breakdown by race and ethnicity? There definitely are some statistics to my knowledge, especially in like the affordable home ownership programs. I'm actually not sure what level of information there is on a citywide level, including all types of housing and home ownership. So I actually don't know about that. And unfortunately, I don't think that we necessarily have those statistics. We're more of a service organization and less an advocacy organization, but I would shout out to an organization. We call it Choo Choo. Raquel, is it Community Council on Housing Organizations? I believe.
Yeah, true,
Community
true.
Council on Housing
Housing
Organizations.
organizations,
I believe
CCHO.
that they probably do have the most information on that topic. They really are a housing kind of policy advocacy organization. They do a lot of research about housing and housing needs in San Francisco, and they just put out a really important report actually about the intersection of housing and employment needs in San Francisco. So they probably do have some information on that. And there are different places where you can find that info, and unfortunately we don't have that with us today. But I do want to acknowledge John's question as well about these other services. And Raquel, maybe I can do a screen share again to
Sure.
walk through the website, and we can
For
talk
sure.
about the different housing services that also are provided through these organizations that we work with.
That would be great. That would be great. I think a lot of people get confused when we say homeownership SF because, of course, we are more than just homeownership. It started out with that, but then again, we have basically branched out to renters and homeowners. If we go basically, I believe people are interested in the homeowner programs. If we go into the homeowner program, this basically provides you information with regards to the homeowner process, basically the education and support that's open to homeowners, or rather for people who want to buy into homes. One of the things that is needed whenever somebody wants to buy a home here in San Francisco, the person is required to complete what they call a 10-hour education to be
I went to the
able.
wrong page. I'm sorry,
Uh
Raquel. I
oh, we
clicked
went
on the
to
homeowner
homeowner.
page,
Sorry
not
about
home
that.
buyers. Oh,
Home buyers.
sorry,
Sorry
guys.
about that. So I think this might be
There
John, correct me if I'm wrong. This is the part that we wanted to get a little bit more into. Is that correct? Home buyership. Is that
Yes.
correct? Correct. So basically, with regard to home buyership, there are various programs that are in San Francisco that are being provided. There's what we call down payment assistance programs, and there's what we call affordable housing units. So to be able to qualify for these various programs, there's a 10-hour course that a person or interested household would need to complete to be able to qualify and start applying for these programs. The 10 hours consists of a 2 hour 2 hours of orientation where you get an overview or bird's eye view of how the home buyership process works, including information on the different programs in San Francisco. Once a household has deemed, hey, I want to go through with that, then you go into that 6 hour class. Now, these 6 hours at the moment are mostly offered online. The classes are mostly either split up into 3 and 3 hours, a two-part series. Some other agencies provide what we call like learning at your own pace. So the different choices that will be under step two. So the different choices will be on this same page. It will show you the different choices. If you click on the links, actually that are on the different steps, it will one take you for the orientation. It could take you to our calendar for all the workshops, including the home buyer workshops. And so this is what we have in terms of that. And then of course there's a after, and this is the orientation. This is the 2 hour classes or courses that we were talking about at the beginning. This is offered at the five different agencies that are a member of our coalition. So you get to choose whichever class you want. Now, once you get to the 6 hour course and the 2 hour course, you need to complete your 6 hour course and the last 2 hours with the same agency. So the 6 hours gives you the more of like a yeah, teaches you everything that you need to know within all of those 6 hours, and the 2 hours 2 hours of counseling at the end to complete that 10 hours is a way by which they could boil it down to your own situation by providing you a one-on-one counseling session between your the adults in your household or you as an individual and the counselor itself, wherein that counselor can be able to provide you a guide as to what's affordable to you, what are your next steps, and things like that. And once you've completed this 10-hour course, then you will be granted granted a certificate to be able to apply for the different programs that are offered through the city of San Francisco. And the certificate is good for 1 year.
And I would just add that the 2 hour orientation, I think if you're interested in the homebuyer opportunities, if you want to get a sense of, these are meant to be attainable opportunities for middle income households. And I can just speak for, I had a coworker at the last place that I worked at. She and her partner both are on probably the low to median income or moderate income kind of scale. Family of four, so two parents, two working parents. Definitely very far from the high incomes that most households are earning in San Francisco, working at a nonprofit, one worked in food service, and they were able to buy one of these below market rate condos. Most of the most affordable units that usually that you can buy are going to be below market rate condos. And so there are definitely opportunities. I don't know Choo Choo, and so Choo Choo, the organization, maybe is what you're referring to. Community Council of Housing Organization.
I think that's what they was referred to. We have to get them more information in the chat. Okay.
Yeah, Raquel, can you send that maybe the link to their website? We'll be sure to get that over for you guys. That Community Council of Housing Organizations, I think.
There we go.
Yeah, we'll get that over.
So it is the Council of Community Housing Organizations. Just to interchange there, but yep.
Backwards. Just going back to the home buyer programs, there are a range of opportunities that are affordable for a range of households, but they're definitely not always attainable for the most extremely low households. There's usually kind of lower to moderate income households in San Francisco. And so the types of services that are being provided in addition to the home buyer education, if you take this orientation and you realize, okay, I actually have maybe the income to work on this, but I need to save for a down payment and I need help figuring out like how much to save and how long that's going to take. Or maybe you're like, I got the down payment, I'm good to go, but I have some debt that I need to work on. Those are additional things that these same service providers can actually help with through individual counseling and through a range of workshops. For example, San Francisco Housing Development Corporation, they also offer these orientations twice per month. And we've had a lot of clients who go through and are like, well, this is great, but yeah, maybe I have some debt or want to work on some budgeting. Well, good news. San Francisco Housing Development Corporation has an amazing series of workshops that are about addressing debt, working on credit, and working on savings that are so helpful. And they'll work with folks until, along the way, until you're ready to then take that next step and work, on applying and completing that education and, entering the lottery to buy one of those affordable homes. There are also some additional programs that are available. There are some opportunities for Section 8 voucher holders to actually apply for and purchase some of these units. So that's certainly an option for Section 8 voucher holders. And in addition, and we don't know what this is going to look like yet, so I can't say how this will work, but I do know through the Dreamkeeper Initiative, if anyone has heard of the Dreamkeeper Initiative, which I think both sides of the conversation might be a recipient of, the Dreamkeeper Initiative, which is an initiative that's coming through the city right now to help fund community organizations and really support the African American community. There will be some housing component to that. And I'm not sure exactly what that's going to look like yet, but I think we'll see soon how that will come out to serve the African American community with specifically on the end of homeownership. So definitely more to come soon.
Yes. Oh, if you can stop sharing the screen. I got a lot of questions about that. So I'll let you guys go shortly. Y'all been holding it down since our other two guests in here. But yes, we are one of the Dreamkeeper grantees, and we're going through that process. But I have some very, very questions, some very good questions I think that you all can help me with because these programs for housing are very troubling to me. There's a number of them out there that supposed to help, the Black and brown community get in housing, DACA, a number of these programs. I'm not saying that the programs that you all showed are like that, but what I'm finding in these programs are the pathway to home ownership is so far away that a lot of the folks who are trying to go through these programs, they either drop out or just not beneficial. Okay. And it's a small percentage of folks. And I'm not going to say that no one succeeds from the program, but there's a small percentage of folks. But when we're talking about equity, and we're talking about in the Dreamkeeper Initiative, and we're talking about bringing back folks to San Francisco and across this Bay Area, because it's not just happening here in San Francisco, across the Bay Area, these programs are sometimes tailored in a way that are not so friendly to bring people back. And I just wanted to hear from you all your opinion of how do we fix these programs and make them more feasible, transparent, and equitable to the folks who are struggling or trying to get out of that jam, like you said, because there are some people in the community who may have the capabilities to pay the mortgage, but maybe don't have the accessibility or the discretionary funds to save for the down payment, or maybe it's vice versa, have the down payment, But when it comes to debt and different things of that nature, just wanted to hear from you all. What is your thought process and thought of how that looks? Because I've talked to people and I've assessed these programs, and sometimes folks are in these programs for 2 to 3 years, and it's just right. You might have this person that is right there and just need that help, right? And I'm thinking, like, how do we get grant or funding to maybe eliminate that loan, that student, because a lot of it is always tied to student loans or something that's pressing. How do we kind of reverse the process to speed it up, right? Because you might have this family who is right there, But to go through these programs for the credit scores and some of the things within the application process, and they're waiting and waiting to see, can this person sustain? And it's like, come on, like I want to bring equity. So I'm put it out there, both sides of the conversation. We're creating another equity program. It's coming. We're going to figure out a way to dismantle DACA and these programs that make our people wait 2 to 3 years when we have some great folks who are working, trying to do the right thing. And it just sometimes is that, the discretionary funds, that holds up them from making that leap or getting over that hurdle. But I've been to a number of these workshops, and it's a great thing to do. And again, like you said, if you have a 2-parent home where the income is up there, those programs work great. But I'm talking about the people that single family, working class, city worker who's making the bottom of the barrel, but makes enough where that transition is not happening. But we waste our time going to these programs, and the road to success or prosperity is just not there, right? And it's great turnouts for the organizations. We had all these people, show up and participate. But when you start looking at the turnover rate or the amount of rate that we're actually getting people in home ownership, is very, very sad, and it's troubling, because I want to see that more. There's millions and millions of dollars, not only from the Dream Cube, but these MOHCD and a number of these departments who have this funding to uplift our community and get them in home ownership. I just don't think they're doing enough. And the lottery pooling is just terrible. So I just wanted to hear from you all, but I want to come up with a better way to really bring equity to all of our communities, because there are people from each one of our different diverse backgrounds in this city that need support and need to get in there. But it's something about when it comes to the African American and Latino community, those numbers seem to shrink so much. And I want to fix it. I want to be a part of it. But I want to hear from you all. And what do you think about the programming, and how do we really speed up that process to get our people into home ownership? And I'm going to say it here, and I'll say it again, community co-op is not the answer. We need ownership in our community. But I want to hear from you all.
Raquel, do you want to start, or do you want me to jump in? Or
Jump in, and I will actually also provide some insight on that as well.
Yeah. So I'm going to be real. It is really hard, right? The numbers aren't good. And I think that there are a lot of efforts right now, especially in the city of San Francisco, especially through the mayor's office and the mayor's office of housing, that are really looking at how can they develop new programs or change policies in such a way that will uplift more households, that will enable households that maybe have higher barriers because of structural racism and various historical factors, life, the whole spectrum, right? That will really help folks, that will ensure that other people have access, right? So that equity in this case is making sure that wherever you are on that, wherever you are, that you have some type of chance. So I do think we're hearing a lot from the mayor and from the mayor's office of housing that that's a really big focus that they're looking at from a policy perspective, from a funding perspective, and how to overcome some of those barriers that are kind of built into homeownership, like what you need to qualify for a mortgage, right? Mm-hmm. That is, these programs are, for example, in a below market rate program, they're basically ensuring that units have a low purchase price. But even with that low purchase price, a home buyer still has to be able to get a mortgage through a bank, right? And the city doesn't have any power over that. So there are some really complex aspects to this. And there's a couple of things I would say in terms of addressing it. On the one hand, I think there's the real deal, which is how do you actually get towards that goal of homeownership, knowing that there's barriers in place. And to be honest, as much as they are working on it, I don't know if those are going to go away overnight, right? I don't know if overnight there's going to be increasingly affordable opportunities or enough funding to really help as many households as we know. Even I'm sure the city wants to help. So there's this kind of reality of like, well, how can you at least figure out how to work in that direction, knowing that those barriers are there, knowing that they might persist, but really needing to figure out what you need and what you want, right, out of something like homeownership. And then there's this other aspect, which is that we do need those barriers to be lower, and we do need more funding, more access. And that I really think is a matter less of navigating services on the one hand, of working towards your own goals, but changing the system really comes down, I think, to advocacy. And so I think a lot of that is really community power and people showing up at supervisors meetings. You know, a lot of the funding that funds these programs is coming from the city. I used to work in homeless services, and this is a little bit of a digression, but I think it's a good example. In homelessness, right? We used to talk about, okay, homelessness is the number one concern of San Francisco residents, regardless of their race, their political persuasion, doesn't matter. Number one concern. And when you start to talk to people about homelessness, they don't necessarily know that up until recently, only 3% of the city budget went to services for homelessness, right? That's a huge problem. So there are a lot of, kind of structural issues that can be addressed through policy and really through advocacy with the mayor, through the board of supervisors, really making sure your elected representatives understand more resources are needed, more barriers need to be lowered. And that's something that that I think, obviously community can do in a variety of ways, but really that community participation and building coalitions, right? Building coalitions. I don't know if you guys remember the Maximus Giant and the Mission project that was going to go up several years ago, a huge housing project. That was one of the biggest outpourings of community. People showed up from across the city. A broad coalition of communities showed up to support the people who wanted to stop that from happening. And it was effective. It was so effective that now that project is probably going to be affordable housing. I think it most definitely is. So there are definitely, there's a lot to be said for making sure your voice is heard and connecting with folks from the community to come together and really fight for that on an advocacy level. The citizens are really where the power is in a lot of ways. And it doesn't feel that way. It doesn't feel that way a lot, but I think personal opinion, I think that's there's a lot to be said for that. On the other hand, I was born and raised in San Francisco. So I went to my first anti-gentrification march when I was in 7th grade. Been a long time. But on the other hand, there's also like, what do you need to do for you? And if that goal is to work on home ownership, one of the things that I really recommend is working with these housing counseling organizations. And you can go to that 2-hour orientation. And from that, if you're like, okay, this feels really far from my reach, then the next thing you can do is connect with a counselor through an appointment. Because meeting with a housing counselor one-on-one to talk about those long-term goals and where you're at now, what you really need is a plan. And that plan can be, here's where I'm at now, here's my goal. And that housing counselor can say, you are far from that goal, right? Or maybe you're not as far as you think. And actually you just have this one thing you need to work on, and we can help you through that. That kind of support is, it can be hard sometimes to accept help, right? It can be hard to go through that process, but those services are there and they're free. And I really think that the nice thing about San Francisco, and through all these different organizations serving different communities, different folks, different neighborhoods, different cultural and language backgrounds, right? That there's really something for everybody. And so if we can help folks connect to that service, that will really help them work towards those goals. It might be that you're like, I want to buy a home, but maybe San Francisco is not the spot, right? Maybe I actually can find something in the East Bay that fits more what I want to work towards, right? And maybe that's a year goal, maybe that's a 2-year goal. But if that counselor can help you figure out how to meet your needs in the meantime with your housing, that's great. The other thing is that these organizations also provide assistance with access to rental housing. So if you're in a situation where you need housing immediately, it might be starting with access to that rental unit, making sure you can find one where you can save up still for that down payment, and then working towards that eventually. But the last thing I want to say before I turn it over to Raquel is that the city of San Francisco has actually made some changes recently that are really positive. Most recently, the down payment that's actually required to participate in most of these programs it's like 3%. And that is 3% of a down payment is actually a chunk of change. Like, that's a lot of money, right? I don't think I necessarily have that right now, But there are additional funds and ways to sometimes get that money. And that's really how these housing counselors can help you piece those kind of programs together to see what you might qualify for. So there are big barriers, absolutely. But taking that orientation, meeting with the housing counselor can help you work towards your goal. And in the meantime, the advocacy piece, like get down to City Hall, write those letters, contact your supervisor, let them know what you think. And if you're not in San Francisco, same thing, right? You have elected officials too. And the more people who are reaching out, the more they're going to care about your concerns. Sorry, Raquel, I want to.
Raquel, before you go, I have to say, Kristen, I have a lot of respect for you. I love the blunt truth, and I love what you said, because it is all power to the people, and we try to keep that model here. Let people know that you have power, you can't do something, and it is a difficult conversation. I just really appreciate your honesty about it. We have some ugly truths, not only here in San Francisco but across this country. But again, it takes leaders and organizations like you all to stand up and just tell the truth. There's problems, and we can't fix it. But I do have to disagree when you say there's not enough money in San Francisco. I think there's plenty of money.
There
is enough to fix the problem, but I think there's enough money to help fix some of the problems that we have. When we look at the budget that was passed, the ugly truth, the real truth is, when we talked earlier, I know they asked about the disparities or the numbers based on ethnic groups. I've been in a lot of those meetings, so I can tell you right now, the Black and brown is below everybody. Okay. Yeah. And I think the way we fix this problem is we have to bring equity back to the community when we look at what we're doing. And I think especially the Black and brown community, Latin communities hit the hardest. And I think one of the ways we fix that problem is for those groups to help bring equity to meet the match of some of the other groups here in the city is, one, we're going to need to figure out a way to de-tax home ownership. Okay, and we talk about businesses in San Francisco. We got to figure out a way to remove the tax barrier, because sometimes home ownership, the taxes alone could take a family out, given the situation that a lot of our single families work. So that's one of the things I'm always arguing for. How do we remove those tax barriers when it comes to home ownership? We got to figure that out. There's reparation talks and things of that nature. And I think that's the way you bring equity back, is remove those tax barriers. Okay. And then the second thing that we have to do is we have to get land trusts. We have to figure out how do we leverage our city, since our city wants to bring people back because they disenfranchise them, and a number of things that the city's done to help move out these folks from our developers. And I think our city has to do another re-advancement and a new look at what we look like when we tax these tech companies that come into our city, because I think we give a lot of breaks to these tax companies, to these tech companies who come in here. And they cause this problem of further homelessness and the gentrification issues that we have in our communities. So how do we leverage them to do more? It's more than just giving them $250 billion in taxes. How do we make sure that we get home ownership in our community? And then when you talk about the systemic issues, when we talk about the planning and development departments, when we intentionally design and develop housing and programming throughout our city that's not fit for the communities that we serve, that's another issue that we have to deal with, because those also cause home ownership and issues in our community that down the line shows up when we're looking at how we develop and we build for the residents and the folks that we culturally say that we want to be appropriate and give them what they need. I think we have to have that as well, because stacking people on top of people without parking and access is a terrible thing, and it shows out in our community all the time. With the violence and some of the things that take place. How are we planning? How do we look at it? And then how do we utilize some of this space that the city has across this city that can be utilized for housing to impact community? And a lot of times these other community folks don't want to let other folks into their community, and that holds up the process as well. So I appreciate you saying that. That's the equity issue that we have to fight, and we have to change that to make a change here in San Francisco. We have to do better. As a city, as folks that's been here and a part of these processes, I tell them there's a lot more that we could do. There's a lot of talk about equity and how do we uplift equity. And I know there's a big talk about universal income, but numbers don't lie and people do. And across the board, we don't need to go 15 years. We can look right here currently, last 3 years, and you can see where the economical and the equity issues are. And as a community, as our elected officials, we have to be honest and we have to figure it out. And if that means leveraging these tech companies and these other companies who come in here and drive the costs up to close that equity gap, that's what we need to do. And I think that's the real community solidarity meetup that we need to have to help change this in San Francisco. But Raquel, sorry for taking up your time, and I'm gonna let you guys get out of here. But go ahead, I want to hear from you as well, bro.
Actually, what Chrissy had mentioned is basically exactly was on my mind, but I knew Christy would have a better way of expressing that. It's definitely advocacy, involvement, and making use of what's available to people right now. So basically, when we say making use of what's available right now, the education piece, the counseling piece, a key component. I guess a lot of times, a lot of people shy away from this because of the fact they've already been disillusioned, right? Because of feeling like, hey, nothing's going to happen anyway, so why bother? So one of the key things that we want to make sure of is that Homeownership SF is there to be able to provide this information and these resources within the reach of people. That basically our goal is to actually bridge that gap, to be able to make it more accessible to them, and be able to also, if we're receiving this type of feedback also coming from the community, it also allows us to be able to utilize us in the spaces that we work with, right? Because we do work with the community, we do work with the services, we do work with the basically the local government. So by also providing us that feedback, it also allows us to be able to provide the right information to the community that can also help in bridging that gap for the community. So like in our website right now, there's different workshops, and there's basically different resources there that you could already start with to be able to bridge that gap in the moment. But I think it really starts with like education at the moment, knowing what's going on, and then moving forward with whatever we have. And then, of course, as I said, having the voice to be able to put that out there. This is what we need. This is what's really going on, and this is, this is what needs to happen. So, basically, that's what it is. It's like, it's just to boil it down in a simpler level. I think that's what I would say.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. Both sides of the conversation. We are the voice. We just need the information. I agree with you. Education and awareness and information is the very powerful thing that we need to continue to have. And that's why we have our Educational Thursday. So phenomenal folks like you could come on and give that information to our community to help raise that level of consciousness, education, information, so that we can start moving. Because I think a lot of our communities are standing still, and we need to start moving our communities. And it starts with folks like you all coming on to give sometimes that information that we just don't get in the community for whatever reason. I listen and I look at what people consider as outreach in our community, and the outreach is poor. And I not to say, nothing on nobody, but I think that's one of the failures of all agencies and community and leadership. We are missing the outreach that's really happening in our community, and we're going to continue to do our part here to try to make sure we're part of that outreach and getting that information out. And it starts with conversations like this tonight, where you all just presented phenomenal information, a way to get our the brain ticking and get the community thinking about things. You gave a phenomenal amount of resources to the community. And this is what this is all about, these shows that we do. And this is why it's very important and it's so impactful, because again, there's somebody out there that's dealing with this. We have a digital receipt here. Somebody could go back, miss it. Maybe they'll share it to a friend and say, hey, I know you're going through this. Check this out. Call them. Because I know to navigate some of these organizations and some of these resources is a challenge. That's why we continue to do our part here at both sides of the conversation, to have these intersections meet together, the resources to the community, so that people have the leisure at their time and the privacy of their home to get this information and really be able to advocate for themselves. And we're just happy that we have you all out in the community advocating for the people. We have to have people like you all to speak up for the voiceless, or for the people that's uninformed or don't have the information, so that we could go ahead and empower them with that information to move forward and help build our communities. And it's just going to continue to keep happening. We're going to continue to do our part here. Thank you all, both of you, for coming on tonight and holding it down, being real, authentic. And this is what allyship is about. This is what solidarity is about. We have all these campaigns and different things going on about solidarity. And this is what it's about. It's a little bit of everybody coming together, helping the people. I heard Krista say it's all power to the people. And as people in the community, as community folks, this is what we have to learn. And we have to rally around each other and get people re-engaged and get that energy. And I think, Raquel, you said it early, so many people are disappointed from the things that's happened in the past, and they just give up. And I think we are at a time right now with this crisis that we're facing, not here in San Francisco, but across this United States. If people don't come together in solidarity, days are going to get darker, they're going to get worse. And you see all of the violence, you see all of the things that's taking place. So we have to figure out as community, how do we help uplift each other? Because if we bring that equity to everybody, we give everybody that opportunity for prosperity, or for opportunity that sometimes they might not get. It could definitely change the paradigm or living situations in our community and stop some of this violence and some of the things that are happening in our community that are terrible, as people are taking greater risks to do things that typically they wouldn't do just to survive. We have to get out of that mindset, and it's going to take a collective of elected officials, community leaders, and the community folks to just come together, have a seat, and figure it out. I think we all have the answers. It is time to do a little bit of listening and less talking from some of our elected officials and some of our folks, and make sure they hear from the people. People always ask me, John, how do you connect with people? How do you get this information? I say, all you got to do is listen. It doesn't take a PhD to figure out what's going on in the community. We just got to get some more folks who are willing to sit there, listen, and utilize their network and the things that they're doing to impact the community. And that's what you all are doing. So we appreciate you. I see the community, our both sides of the conversation community, they always watch it. They pay attention. They said we need a part 2. You all are always welcome to come back and share any updated information. And yeah, we definitely should have a part 2 to figure out what happened with all the extra money that the government didn't give to the families for COVID resistance, and see how much of that money they utilized to help people get back into housing. Because I'm sure there's a large amount of that funding that didn't get utilized. And we just don't want it to go back into the general fund so other people could do things that they want to do with it. We want to make sure that the intention behind that money was to help folks with home ownership. And maybe we could use some of that to help in different ways to really impact our community, because we need it at this time. So with that being said, if there's any questions or anything you all would like to say before we clock out of here tonight, please say it now. If not, I'll start closing this out for tonight.
Oh, just thank you so much for having us. It was really an honor to come to talk and share the information. And yeah, thank you for inviting us. And I think we're happy to come back, Raquel.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. There's a lot of information to be said, not just for what we've talked about today, but of course, housing in general. I know there's quite a lot of questions about that. So we definitely want to be that resource. So let us know. You could definitely come in.
Yeah, definitely. We'll reach out to you. And if there's any updated new information that you all would like to get out to the community, we always encourage our guests, please sign up, come back on, because sometimes we just get so busy that we forget. But if there's any breaking news or anything that you all would like to come back and tell us, or if any laws change, please go to our website, log in. We want to get you back on. This is the important part of what we do here. And as you see, the community is requesting that. And that's important, that this is something that they value. This is a real issue, not only here in San Francisco, but across this country. When we talk about housing and food security and mental health, one of the top 3 issues that are impacting our community, we have to do something about it. We have to keep our foot on the gas to fix these issues and get this information. And to our mayor and to our board president, to a number of those elected officials, there's more work that needs to be done. We're going to continue to push you all to make sure that we force these difficult conversations to help the housing security issues in our community, as well as some of the other issues in our community that impact our community. It's always space here at both sides of the conversation to have those conversations, and we love that. And that's what we're going to continue to do. So continue to support us as we continue to try to bring these resources and information to our people and to the community, so that we can have true impact and make change and pivot from this COVID back to our normal as we start getting there, so that people could get back to their normal lives. It's going to take us all. It's a lot of work, but we'll get there as we continue to march on. As Christy said, all power to the people. We have to continue to unite, and that's what we're going to do this weekend. That's the part of this event for everybody that's coming out this Saturday for our skate event. It is to unify our communities. No more division. It's not about San Francisco. It's not about Oakland. It's about bringing our communities together. Okay, we got to bring that village culture back, and it's time to do it. And we're going to start up. We're going to take the leadership. We're going to work together and try to get these organizations to work together together. These silos and the divisiveness that's taking place in our community is further pushing our community down the wrong pathway. So we're going to do our part with East Oakland Collective and a number of other organizations that are coming together saying we're going to break the traditional way that we've been doing business, and we're going to work together to make sure that we impact our community in unity and solidarity and move our young generation forward and make sure that our elders get the support and the things that they need. And that's what this family's event is about. So I hope to see you all this Saturday. We'll be out there from 3 to 6 p.m. Bring your skates, come have a good time. Even if you don't have skates, you want to come out and get some food, hang out and listen to some good music and convene with community. Both sides of the conversation will be out there. East Oakland Collective, we'll be having a good time, giving back to our community, letting our community know we appreciate you, we see you. And before these winter holidays, make sure you have that last break of just enjoying each other. And that's what we're going to do. And then this Thursday, in a couple days, we'll be having another educational presentation with Cynthia and Sean. We'll be continuing our financial literacy to impact our community, make sure we understand insurance, retirement, how do we get prepared as we start seeing the baby boomer generation retire out here. There is a large amount of folks in our community that are having to work later because they didn't get the proper financial information to invest in retirement. So that's what Sean and Cynthia is going to come on to educate our people in the community to make sure that we're doing the proper things to save and then we're investing in the right accounts so that when we get up to the retirement age, we can actually retire. We don't have to go work at Walmart or Target or nothing like that. So phenomenal stuff. And then we'll be back after the New Year's as we continue to have conversations with our sponsors and different folks about having our show come back every Sunday so that we can continue our difficult community conversations on this platform. As you know, this has been a phenomenal year and a half of Sunday conversations, and we're looking forward to get back, and we have promising news and things are looking like we're going to be able to pull some things off this next year to keep those conversations going and to keep the things that we're doing in the community to increase. So looking forward to seeing you all. Thank you for tuning in for tonight's Hidden Gem segment. I know it's been a little long, but two patient, phenomenal guests who came on, blessed our community with some great information. We are proud to have them there. Please go to their website. It's up on the screen throughout the segment. We've been putting up their phone number. If you need to reach out to them, please do. Get the support. Don't wait till the last minute. Reach out. I know our community deals with pride. Tonight is not the night. You've heard from two amazing hidden gems tonight. Reach out to them. Let them support you and get the things that you need and support to help your family situation out and make those right decisions. So thank you all for tuning in for this segment of Hidden Gems. We'll see you all this Thursday for our next live event. And if you missed Thursday, we'll see you out at the skate park for this Saturday's event. Hope to see you there. God bless everybody. Be safe out there. Make sure you check on your elders out there. It's raining hard. Check on your loved ones and make sure that they're okay and power and different things are happening, especially our folks who have medical conditions. I forgot to say it earlier. There was a lot of folks who was impacted by the power outage, and there's people in our community that's on medication. So please check on them. Make sure if they lost power and maybe your side of the street has power, that they get their medications refrigerated and things of that nature. So please, community, let's be brothers and sisters in the community. Check on each other during the storm. Make sure everybody's doing good. And with that being said, we bid you all good night, and we'll see you all this Thursday. Good evening, everybody.